What is up, Fantasy Fools? We are back again with the Week 3 recap. I say it every week, but it's hard to believe that we are already 3 weeks into the season already. All right, coming out of Week 3, how we feeling?
Yeah, we're feeling good. I mean, me and Johnny's matchup was the best matchup of the week. Two highest scores of the week, and that's a tough L for Johnny. 137, second highest score in the league by a wide margin. I think you were the third highest, it looks like. Yeah, and he beat you by 12. So that's a tough loss. I know Johnny was texting me all of Monday night. I didn't think he had a chance, but it actually looked like Keon and Joe Burrow might have given him a glimmer of hope when Keon got that touchdown. But just going quickly through my team, I'm really happy with every single individual on this team that's not in the tight end position. I am very worried about Mark Andrews. I know week 1, I said, maybe that's just the first week. He's getting back into game action. Week 2, he got 4 catches, 40 yards or something like that. But this was just it was just a terrible week. He got 1 target. And I think that target was like late in the fourth quarter. If I'm not mistaken, it might be the last drive or the second to last drive Ravens had. I am officially picking or pressing the panic button on Mark Andrews. I am not happy. And I don't even have a tight end on the bench. So if you have a tight end that you're willing to sell me, hit me up.
Yeah, that's tough to see a goose egg out of that, especially with the start to the season he's had. Not what you want to see out of a guy that you definitely expect. Usually maybe like a top 5, at least top 10 tight end. He has not been performing there, but to that point, none of the top tight ends really have. So we all may not be in quite the same boat as you where our guys are dropping goose eggs, but some of us that got some of those top tight ends are definitely, I think, a little bit worried, just like you are here. But yeah, I mean, even with the goose egg, you put up a 150, you can't be mad about that. That's a solid week. And like you said, a very tough L for Johnny here. Put up 137, you expect to get a dub in this league, especially when you look across the scoreboard too and see how many low scores we had this week, because we had a lot of low scorers, and to lose with a 137, that's just a bad gut punch there. So tough L to Johnny, who has just not had a great start to the season on an 0-3 skid to start one of our 3 0-3 teams. But he puts up a good number here. His team is looking pretty solid still, even at 0-3. And I got to be the first one to admit, I see Aaron Jones there with a 25. I was wrong about the guy. This man, I said at the beginning of the season that 18 that he got week 1 would probably be the highest he would get. Puts up a very middle of the road 9 last week, but then he comes back with a 25 this week. I think I may have just been wrong about Aaron Jones and probably about the Vikings as a whole. I did not see this team being as good as they are, but that Aaron Jones pick is looking pretty good. And his running backs right now looks like a great 1-2 punch. Joe Burrow, I think Commander's offense, or Commander's defense, but I think he's coming into his own. So I think Johnny's got a solid team to work with here. His other guys didn't do a whole lot, but again, a 137, that's a good score for a week, and you really expect to get a win. You're not going to lose with a 137 very often.
No, and then I just want to let Johnny know that you do have 2 extra bench spots you could have used. He added some people in the IR, and he just never picked anybody up. You can always just throw a dart throw on somebody and just get lucky. I don't know. It's weird to see 2 bench spots empty. So, Johnny, maybe for next week you got 2 empty spots. But, yeah, I hated watching Taylor and Aaron Jones play football this week. They just kept getting fed. But once Dak started playing in the fourth quarter, he's only a fourth quarter quarterback. It started to kind of get away from him. And then Rashee Rice versus Drake London. Rashee Rice had a really good game. So I'm really happy with this. So, yeah, Johnny, keep your head up. I know there's a lot of talk in the chat about some stupid trades, and those were some stupid trades that you had. I wouldn't freak out too much. I think you're the best 0-3 team. We'll probably talk about that during the standings. But, yeah. So we'll go to Lubasi's and Rudy's. And I got to start this off with a question for Ryan. I think I asked this last week. Is Lubasi hitting the panic button?
I think, what did I say? I said last week he's looking at it, right?
He's looking at it.
He had it out of the drawer. He had to pull it out of the nightstand at least to give it a look over. I think coming out of week 3, 0-3, I mean, he cracks 100, but not by a lot. My hand, if it's not pressing the panic button, my hand is resting on it. I am I am worried about this team. I have to be honest. I mean, coming into that Sunday night game, his score was pretty low. I mean, Rudy looked like he was going to win. Patrick Mahomes does have a better week than I think he's had in the past and puts up a nice, what is that? Eight, oh, that's a 16. Okay, so not great, but not terrible. And then he gets a great performance out of Zach Moss last night on Monday, but one of those was a garbage time, like last second touchdown. But man, I don't know. I'm worried if I'm Lubasi right now. I would definitely be hitting the back office, like trying to make some moves. I'm worried. I don't know if you're smashing the panic button yet, but your hand's resting on it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, man, Lubasi, if you look at this team this week, he had a great week. It was just two spots. The the Raiders defense that had a -4, and then Jameson Williams 1.2. And you look on the bench, I mean, Cowboys defense wasn't that good or got worse, which is crazy. But, you play Austin Eckler and you win. I mean, he's like one step away. Quentin Johnson, you probably win or really, really close. Jameson Williams has been playing really well, though, the first two games. But he's really, I think I said this last week, a real boomer bust type player. He likes those big yardage plays. And if Lions are doing what the Lions usually do and just kind of check down and run the ball, he's going to have these low scores, but he also have some high scores. So Lubasi's team, though, this week, it was an okay week. Stephon Diggs had probably his best. I'll probably stamp this as his best week this year. Oh no, he had the better.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure you did. You or I might have said that week one.
Yeah, I think I told Lubasi that he was going to be busting the beginning of the year, and he's looking all right. That second week's just a 7.7, but he's actually looked better than I thought. I think he was a 4th-round pick. 3rd-round pick. So he's got a lot of hype to live up to. But so far, I feel like he's doing all right. Garrett Wilson, the 1st-round pick, just hasn't broke out. We'll see in your score that Jamar kind of had his breakout game. I mean, Wilson's had good games. I mean, consistent games, but for an 8th pick of the draft, kind of want more from the guy.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, as a 1st-round pick, you're looking for a little bit more than 11s and 12s. Respectable scores nonetheless, but you're looking for a little bit more out of that. And I think one of the reasons I am worried about this team is because we had low scores week 1, week 2, very low score week 2, and then I think this. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is Lubasi's highest score maybe of the year. We'll have to check that, but let me see if I was. Oh no, he had a 111. Okay, so 111 and 108, highest scores, and then the very low week 2, and just I don't know, just it doesn't feel like this team is performing to get dubs. That's why I'm a little bit worried. I think I would be making some moves if I was Lubasi.
Yeah, we'll see what he does. I mean, we've heard through the grapevines that he's in the front office right now, getting calls and getting texts. So we'll see if anything happens with his team during the week. We'll go to Rudy's team, one of the 3-0-3 team, or I think there's 2 3-0 teams, right?
No,
or just
he's the only one left.
So he's the only one left. So the only 3-0 team left got the dub against Lubasi. Not a great week, but the Packers defense really won this week for them. I don't know, but some of these numbers just don't pop out, especially Jalen Hurts. He had a tough week. I think I said this last week about Rudy's team. This team still just does not spook me. It just doesn't look like a 3-0 team.
Yeah, I mean, right now he's not putting up flashy scores. He's just doing what it takes to get the job done. And I mean, he's 3-0. What can you say about that? He seems to have some decent pieces here. And his quarterback puts up a low score, but his other guys pick it up. I mean, DK had a huge day. James Cook had a pretty big day. Packers defense had a huge day. And what I keep saying it all season long, when your big superstars aren't putting up big numbers, you just need your other pieces to pick up the slack a little bit. He seems to be getting that from what he's got here, and he's getting the job done. 3-0.
Yeah, this was a great start because usually Bills defense are must starts. They have a really good team in general, and he started the Packers D that got 9 more points, and without that, I think he still would have won, but it would have been by point, 14. So he still would have won, but still great play by Rudy. But I think I probably have to admit that I was wrong about James Cook this year. I don't think I was as high as other people were. I think he was a second round pick. Yeah, I don't think I was touching him in the first 3 rounds, but he has performed. He's looked like a back that is leading the Bills offense, like the only running back that is. I don't know. He's had a really good year. Every time I've watched the Bills play, he's done a really good job. So that's so far a good pick, in my opinion. But yeah, DK. I mean, he had that one really long touchdown. How many catches did he get? Yeah, 4 catches for 104. He's a boomer bust player, even though he had 10 catches week 2, though.
Yeah, I was
I
gonna
don't know, I've
say
never really
10,
liked DK.
10 catches on 14 targets is not. I don't know if I'd call that boomer bust quite. But yeah, with only 4 catches for 104, that is a bit of a boomer there. But I mean, 2 back-to-back big weeks, you can't be mad about that. He did have long touchdown catches in both of those, though.
Yeah, I've never really liked DK as just like not even as a player, but like as a fantasy player because I feel like he goes in like the round 4. I just feel like there's other good wide receivers 3rd round this year. That's just a personal vendetta I guess I have against him for no reason.
Yeah, well, either way, like I said, he's getting the job done. He's 3-0. Congrats to Rudy, and we'll see if he can keep it up.
Yep, and then we'll go to Dom and Nick's, which I think were combined the 2 lowest scores of the week. Well, Geoff had 96, and okay, so maybe not, but combined the 2
Lowest
games.
scoring game of the week.
There you go. That's it. Nick comes out on top, and I think this was the time to beat Dom because he had so many injuries. Just AJ Brown, Debo, 2 big wide receivers that were out. But you see a couple of holes in Dom's team. I know I just said that their 2 big guys were out or 2 big wide receivers, but this was a day to get them, and Nick did. Nick is, these are both 2-1 teams. Nick's team, I played week 2. I mean, I don't know if I'm hitting the panic button if I'm Nick, but those wide receivers, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, I think is on James's team. I don't know. That Miami offense is going to be tough to watch, especially with like Tyreek. A-Chain might be all right, but Hill and Waddle, those guys are going to be tough to watch. I don't know. Are you hitting the panic button with Nick's team? I know he's 2-1, but just some of these scores are not that good.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm hitting the panic button because he is 2-1. He's got a little bit of breathing room. He doesn't have to. I don't think he has to panic right now. I might be a little bit concerned here, but I mean, you got to think like just game script for CJ Stroud this week was not good. They just got dominated by the Vikings. The Texans looked terrible. I don't think CJ Stroud's going to have too many weeks under 10 points like that. And then Mike Evans with the Christian Gonzalez shadow. He's just been shutting down number 1 wide receivers all year so far. So I wouldn't be too worried about that one. I like you. I mean, Tyreek Hill, it's hard not to worry about him with, I mean, Skylar Thompson won't be the starter anymore because he got hurt and also sucks ass. But yeah, that Miami Dolphins passing offense right now is a little bit of murky water, and I would be worried about that. But his other guys, I don't know. Amari Cooper finally has a big week, even though Deshaun Watson still sucks cock. I got to be happy about that. And, his guys pick up where the superstars did not show out this week with Josh Jacobs and CJ Stroud having down weeks. His other guys get the job done and he gets the win. I'm not hitting panic here, but I might be slightly concerned or maybe just trying to move a little bit. Make a move if it's there, if it's good. But I wouldn't be trying to, sell the team right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's Tyreek Hill. I mean, you just can't be confident with like Tyreek Hill pick anymore. I don't know how long Tua's gone. Probably another couple weeks, I would assume. And it's just tough because this guy goes from a top 3 wide receiver every week to now, I don't even know if he's a top 15 wide receiver. So it's going to be tough just to watch that offense and have like that type of weapon not be utilized as he can be. Hopefully Nick survives for his sake until Tua comes back, and he does this week. But Dom's only bad week, I think he got pretty good high scores the last 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that Saquon Barkley pick is probably, maybe the steal of the first round. I think he got him in the first round. No, the second round, but it was the turn. Oh, that was the second pick of the second round. Um, but he just lights out. And that was one guy I was kind of staying away from. Just didn't know how he was going to do in that offense, especially with Jalen Hurts taking all those touchdowns. But man, it's a great pick so far. Hopefully he can stay healthy because a healthy Saquon for a full year might be what running back number one this year.
Yeah, I do not think that this week's score tells the story of this team at all. I mean, we talked about it last week when we saw his two best receivers go down or that they were going to be out, that we're going to have to see how he performs without them. And obviously it hurts a little bit not having those guys. So, I mean, as long as those guys are out, you're probably not too scared of Dom's team right now. But I mean, once those guys come back and he gets them plugged back in, I mean, this team goes right back to being a scary looking team, especially like you said, with Saquon Barkley playing so well. Kyler Murray's been playing pretty well. He had a rough week versus the Lions this week, but I don't anticipate that to happen very often. So I'm still thinking this is one of the better teams we have when he has all his guys healthy.
Yeah, I just got to point out, since I think we've talked about this literally the last two podcasts, the Tennessee stack right here. You can see how sometimes that just does not work in favors, especially with a team like the Titans that are looking kind of not good this year so far. So that's just the reason I always point it out, and since stay consistent. We've had some two good weeks from them, but this week kind of killed them, and he only lost by 12. So, if they have their normal weeks, Dom definitely wins this game. But yeah, like you said, I think Dom's team is very good when he is healthy, but fantasy is all about health of your players. And it's going to be, I think AJ Brown's supposed to come back maybe this week, or I think next week for sure. They have that week 5 bye. So he probably comes back week 6. Maybe misses the Tampa game this week. So we'll see how that goes. Stebo, that's a tough one too. So 2-1 teams, kind of different trajectories. If you ask my opinion, I think Nick's team's going down. Dom's kind of just staying. I guess he's going down too, but I wouldn't be worried about him too much.
Yeah, his is more going down because of pieces that he's missing versus Nick's. I don't know. He just had a down week, but another team. I'm not super scared of Nick's team right now. I don't think it's looking super flashy, but I don't think he needs to be hitting the panic button yet.
Right. So we'll go to Jimmy and Chewy's game, and this actually was a very close game with Monday night. Josh Allen, Dalton Kincaid just actually showing out. I was watching this game. I was watching this on the Fantasy Cast, and I think before they took Josh and Dalton out, Josh missed Dalton on his second touchdown, Dalton's second touchdown. That was going to be for like a 15-yard catch for a touchdown and would have actually won Jimmy this game, but he missed them in the end zone. I think he threw him wide, and then they took Josh Allen out the next drive. So Jimmy had a shot to win this game, and I was watching that pretty closely, more closely than my game actually with Johnny. But Chewy, great score, 120, 110 is a pretty good score as well. So tough L for Jimmy. But with Chewy's squad, I wanted to ask you a question. Now, Malik Neighbors is really good. Zay Flowers had a down week. Chris Olave actually had a good week. So I think his wide receivers are looking pretty good. But Rachaad White, would you continue to start him over Devin Singletary? Pretty much. And he's got Carson Steele down here. Because I think, let me just say what I think. I think Bucky Irving might take this job here soon.
Yeah, I think it is going to be. I mean, Bucky Irving had a great week. He looked really good, like on his runs that he had.
The last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think this is going to slowly inch its way to a 50-50 split, and then possibly, I mean, if Bucky Irving keeps playing the way he has been, we might see that flip onto the Bucky side, especially with Rachaad White. I mean, he's like through the first 3 games, he's probably averaging less than like 2 yards a carry. If I had to guess off the top of my head, can't be great. Yeah, pretty close. Maybe just a little over 2 with that 2.8, but not what you want to see out of a running back, especially when you got a backup that is looking so fresh and hungry right now in Bucky Irving. So Yeah, I could totally see that script flipping a little bit, but luckily for Chewy, he does have some pieces on the bench here that he can make that decision with. Devin Singletary had a great week this week, so yeah, it will be all eyes on him to see if he continues to start him or how that backfield split starts to go moving forward. But I do also want to point out you pointed out Chris Olave last week, asked me if I'd be worried about him. I said absolutely not. And look what he did this week. Rashid Shaheed gets 0 points. And what does Olave do? Puts up a 20 ball.
Yeah, that's just the complete opposite of what Jimmy wanted. That was, yeah, I think last podcast I said that he should probably start starting Shaheed, and that was terrible advice. I don't know if you actually
I'm
listened to
sure
the
that he probably
podcast.
didn't do it because you said it.
Right, but it was still terrible. He still had 5 targets. I know he missed a deep touchdown pass. That probably, again, would have won Jimmy the game. But no, yeah, Olave had a really good. I was actually high on him with the betting. I think I had a lot of his overs. I thought this game was going to be a shootout, and it wasn't. But he
No.
still has a really good game. I still like Chewy's team. I think Malik Neighbors catapults this team. If he could be a top 5, even a top 10 wide receiver this year, this team catapults to probably a top 3 team in the league. But that RB2 is a little worrisome for me. And Brees game script had him not play as much. I know there was a lot of reports about Brees not playing as many snaps, Braylon Allen, all that stuff. But the game script just didn't really focus on him. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I really like Chewy's team. Chewy's team is going up in my rankings in my mind.
yeah, I would not be worried. Honestly, either of these guys. I think these are both pretty solid teams. And like you said, I mean, Jimmy had a shot to win this, with a few different, just missed plays. Rashid Shaheed drops that big touchdown. Josh Allen misses Dalton Kincaid on that touchdown. I mean, one of those plays goes a different way. Jimmy's winning this game. So I don't think either of these guys have anything to worry about right now. I think both of them are looking pretty solid. And even, the RB2 spot, I think everyone kind of struggles with.
Right.
That's with the depth of running backs that we're dealing with. I think everyone kind of has a shaky RB2, maybe one or two teams that don't, but it's hard to have two quality running backs with the depth that we're dealing with. So I think, these two teams are going to be solid teams throughout the season.
Yeah, I mean, I really, really like Jimmy's team because he beat me week 1, so I got to know his team pretty good. But with Isaiah Pacheco in this RB1 spot, put Montgomery down to RB2, this team was one of the complete teams in the league week 1. But when your best wide running back goes down, it's so hard to just like keep that position, above water. And you can see Zeke just wasn't a great play this year or this week. Probably this year is probably not going to be a good play at all. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough when your RB1 goes down on your team. It's really tough to swallow and try to keep that going. So Jimmy, hopefully Pacheco. I think Pacheco's out for another 2 months, so he might be shit out of luck.
He's probably, I mean, that's going to be someone that comes back for fantasy playoffs, maybe.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it sucks. So hopefully Jimmy can continue to just put up good weeks without him. But yeah, that's just a tough way to start the season for Jimmy. 1-2. Hopefully, whoever he plays next week, he can get the dub for himself. So we'll go to Geoff and Ryan's team. Third highest score for Ryan. Geoff had his first down week. I mean, we've been glazing Geoff's team the last 2 weeks. Starting to see a little holes in his squad, but we'll start with your squad. How you feeling after week 3?
Oh, I am feeling good. I feel like it's been a long time since I've started 2-1 in a while. I feel like I'm usually trying to fight my way from the bottom. So feels good to start on the winning side here, but we're not getting comfortable by any means. We're not slowing down. We're not thinking that I'm, hot shit or anything by any means, because fantasy is a nasty game. But I feel really good right now about the team. I feel like everybody's kind of coming into their own and their own offenses here, with the exception of DeAndre Swift, who is ass cans. But everybody else, like I feel, my receivers are doing exactly what I drafted them for. Deontay Johnson finally has a good week with a quarterback that can throw the ball. And I'm just hoping, once Jordan Loves comes back, the team's looking a little bit more complete, even still. But yeah, Devon Anchan has a down week, but my other guys come in and they pick up the slack and we get the job done. I'm feeling good right now. I feel good.
Yeah, this was a good play, Deontay Johnson. You wondered if Andy Dalton would catapult this offense to be at least average, a little below average, because they're probably the worst with Bryce Young, and they are the worst with Bryce Young.
Oh, yeah.
But the running backs, they do scare me a little bit. We were just talking about Tyreek and Waddle without Tua, and if you just keep running the ball, I think Achan's game for him to be successful without Tua is just going to get a lot of check down passes from these quarterbacks or whoever's starting quarterback. Because if I was a defense against the Dolphins, I'd just load the box, stop Achan, and make them throw against us. So 3 receptions last game. I didn't really watch that game, so I don't know if those were check downs. They look like check downs, but I don't know. Achan might not be as good as what you hope to be without Tua. And then Swift, like you said, is just – that dude is terrible. He had a minus 12-yard run last week.
That, in his defense, was a horrid play call, first of all.
That was.
You don't run that play at the goal line. But, yeah, DeAndre Swift just cannot find room to run. I saw somebody put out like a tweet or something of all of Swift's yardages, like from lowest to highest. He had there were 8 negative yard runs, and then there was 15 that were 1 to 5 yards, and then he had 1 20-yard run. It looked absolutely disgusting to see it all put out, how many yards he's getting. And it's the guy can't run. For DeAndre Swift to be what he needs to be in fantasy specifically, he's got to be a pass catcher, but they're not utilizing him like that. I can't fathom why, but they are not throwing to him hardly at all out of the backfield. And you just see here, it doesn't work. He's not a run only type of running back. He's when the Lions used him properly, he was catching balls out of the backfield like a madman, and he crushed in fantasy that year. Granted, that was I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago, but still, they're not using him at least the way that is fantasy productive. But he's been terrible as my RB2.
Yeah, and then the tight end spot, we said with me, we saw it with Dom too, with Travis Kelce. These top tight ends just aren't putting up numbers. And I think Sam Laporta got hurt. He might be out this week. I don't know if you've heard anything with him.
Day to day, sprain, low grade, not too worried about it. Not that he's been that great anyway, if I have to pick somebody up.
Yeah, so week 4, so they have another early week bye. They might sit him for week 4. At least that's what I read, that they might sit him for week 4 and have them good for the bye. But yeah, these tight ends are just not. This is my last year drafting one of those guys because they suck.
Yeah, even tight ends from now on. But nonetheless, very happy with my team's performance. But we'll get over to Geoff's team here, who does have a down week after 2 fireworks shows he put on in week 1 and week 2. I think he was due for a little bit of a regression here. No Alvin Kamara 40 ball this week, but he puts up under 100. Not what you want to see. Obviously, we always talk about that. If you expect to get your dubs, you want to at least put up that 100-point week, ideally 110 plus. But Geoff just has a down week here. James Conner got absolutely shut down by that Lions defense. Really, a lot of the Cardinals offense did, minus Marvin. But yeah, it was a tough week for James Conner this week, and CD as well. He just, his big guys just did not have great weeks, and his other guys just did not put up huge numbers to make up for it.
Yeah, the one thing, if you're looking at a silver lining for Geoff's team, he gets the L, but his bench went crazy. Cole Kmet, he's been looking for a tight end, and Cole Kmet might be that guy. He's got Njoku, who's coming back, I think, either this week or next week. I heard he was close to playing this week. But Cole Kmet, nice game. I saw this game, and I was like, oh, maybe he's still on the waiver wire, but it seemed like Geoff picked him up before that. And then a guy that I was really high on, Terry McLaurin, or Scary Terry, actually had a really good game. Jaden McDaniels had a really good game. If he could play like that all year, Scary Terry will be a good wide receiver as a flex. But yeah, his big guys just did not play. CeeDee Lamb, I think he had 4 catches. I mean, 4th pick of the draft. You don't expect that. You expect that maybe once a year. He had 4 catches week 2, but he got a touchdown. But that's a tough game. I think Geoff just wanted to get his bad week out of the way, and then hopefully, to his eyes, it'll skyrocket up here.
Yeah.
So glad that you picked him in a really. You picked. I still like Geoff's team, and you just picked a really good week to play him.
Oh yeah, I still think Geoff's team has a lot of potential. This is going to be a good team all year if they stay healthy, obviously. But I do want to quickly point out before we move to the next game that this is the second week in a row Geoff had a goose egg on the team. His kicker puts up a 0, no points out of him. And I know he had a goose egg last week, I think, out of the tight end spot. So tough to win when you got a 0.0 on the squad. I know last week he still put up a 150 with a 0, but you can't expect that every week. You do not want to see somebody dropping the goose.
Yeah, I mean, I scored a 150 with a goose egg, and Geoff, I wanted to see who his tight end was, scored a goose egg.
It's the Saints tight end.
Oh, yeah, it's not going to show me. Juwan Johnson. Yeah. And he still got a 159. I think 159 is actually leading our mini game. I was looking at that this week because I was thinking I could maybe catch Geoff. I think Dom got like a 156 or something like that, week 1 or 2. So Geoff is currently up winning that. But yeah, if we don't have those goose eggs, if I didn't get a goose egg, I definitely beat that 159. But I forgot Geoff also got a goose egg in that game.
Yes, he did.
So yeah, the last game of the day or week. This game was crazy because Chris had 2 Thursday night games or 2 Thursday night guys that put up a combined 3 points, 3.2. And I was like, okay, James is definitely going to get an easy win. He'll get his first win. And wow, he did not.
He did not. Another tough week for James. Takes his 3rd loss, our last 0-3 team. Yeah, this is a brutal week. I mean, under 90, you do not want to see that. We talk about under 100, under 90, obviously much worse than that. But just a lot of single digits here, and even with a Derrick Henry 30 ball, he just could not get it done. And man, I can't help but wonder if he keeps starting Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, that's a question. I know in my other league, I'm playing Anthony Richardson this week, and I'm kind of happy about it because this guy has not looked like an NFL quarterback.
Outside of week 1 where he had the big bomb and I think he was running a little bit more. 56 yards on the ground with a rushing touchdown too. I mean, outside of that, I mean, basically if this guy doesn't get a rushing touchdown, not good. His passing has not looked good. His balls he just doesn't look like a great passer right now. And he doesn't seem to be using his legs quite as much, which I'm sure they're probably trying to temper that rushing because they don't want him to get hurt. But yeah, from a fantasy perspective right now, Anthony Richardson is just not looking great.
Yeah, and I listened to a lot of Chicago sports radio on the way to work, and they kept saying they weren't saying how embarrassing the loss was per se, but they were just saying I think they counted this was like Anthony Richardson's like 22nd start since his senior year of high school. Because he didn't start that much in college. He started 1 year, I think, at Florida, and he just looks like an inexperienced quarterback right now, and that's definitely for sure. But he does not have any quarterback on the bench. I know there's a couple good ones still on the waiver wire, but he did bench Waddle, and he does have Bucky, which we were just talking about. I'm pretty high on him. I wish I could get him from James, but he's being a little doesn't want to trade him. So. Yeah, so I don't know. James, I think I'm hitting the panic button. I think he said he was for sale in the group text a couple hours ago. And he did make a trade, which we'll look at earlier or later after this. So we'll talk about James' team a little bit more during that trade, but we'll go to Chris's team. And if you want to talk about RB depth, Chris has got it. No, maybe not anymore with Ramondre. I think Ramondre week. I think he still is a respectable flex play, but he's got two really good running backs in Jahmyr Gibbs and Kyron Williams.
Yeah, he does. He is one of those rare teams that has a great 1-2 punch in the running back spot. That's definitely something you want to see. Wide receivers kind of shaky. I mean, Ayuk has just looked so bad this year, even with Debo out, and you would expect that Ayuk would have a bump up with that, but he just did not look good. And Juwan Jennings ate all day long. And yeah, I'd be a little concerned maybe about Brandon Ayuk, but I think, Godwin, I think, is still a great receiver this year to have there in that wide receiver 2 spot.
Yeah, I was really high on Chris Godwin this year, and I don't know, like a fifth, sixth round pick. I think I chose Rashee Rice over Godwin. So those are two really good wide receivers I was choosing over. But yeah, Mike Evans just hasn't looked good the last 2 weeks. Maybe matchup based last week or Sunday. But like I said, Chris Godwin's playing out of that flex, and he loves playing out of that.
All right, video cut out on us. Of course, we were just talking about Chris Godwin and how that's been a great pick for Chris's team. Got him in the 6th round, which is a nice place to get a guy that's been performing the way he has this year. But I really do think that this is someone that's helping Chris's team out a lot, especially, 3rd-ranked wide receiver right now. So can't beat that. And then obviously with the Cup injury, I know that hurts Chris's team quite a bit. So we'll see if he can continue to get it done.
Yeah, and I like this team a lot. Jaden Daniels had a really good week. He looking like a really good quarterback. You're going to have to really ride the peaks and valleys with him. But yeah, this team is looking good. Nice 2-1 start from Chris. This is definitely a team I have my eye on. So yeah, good team.
Yeah.
We'll go to the standings just to see the standings. And we got 1-3-0 team in Rudy.
1-3-0 team and 3-0-3 teams. All right. So now there was a question that I had asked our group chat earlier to see what the longest was in the past of teams that hadn't gotten a win, like what our biggest record was for and whatever. I don't think anybody knew, but the question here is how many of these 3 teams are going to continue, and how long do you think the worst winless team will go without their first win?
So let's just look at the schedule. Lubasi's got me, so that's definitely an L. Johnny has Rudy, which is a tough game. I could see that one going Johnny's favor, but I could also see Rudy going. I'm gonna actually take Rudy in this matchup. So that's another 0-4. And then James with Dom. So I will probably call an upset here. Dom's team, like we said, is weak right now. I don't think A.J. Brown plays. I think, like I said earlier, they wait for the bye week. And then Debo, I think, is out for an extra couple more weeks. So I'm actually gonna call the upset here. I think James gets his first dub in week 4. We'll go to week 5 really quickly. Jimmy versus Lubasi. And
that's a tough matchup again.
And then Johnny's got you. Without looking at schedules or anything, your team is up on the up and up. But I think Johnny's going to have to get something his way. I think Johnny beats either you or Rudy. So if he beats Rudy, or if he loses to, I think he goes 1-1 in the next 2 games. And then Lubasi, Jimmy's a tough game. But he does have an injury-riddled team. And not really injury-riddled, just kind of Pacheco. This is kind of the time to get Jimmy. I think, let's see, week 6. I don't think Lubasi goes 0-7.
Oh, he does have James there.
So he has James here. I think Lubasi beats Jimmy. I think he gets on a nice little 2-game win streaks with Jimmy and James. And he gives them a little bit of hope before losing the next, 5.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Johnny is going to be the first of those three to get his first win. I think he's going to beat Rudy this week. That's my upset call for the three winless teams. Um, but man, I think I'm most worried about James's team right now. James and Lubasi is it's close. But man, I don't think he's gonna get past Dom. I think he's gonna go to 0-4. And I mean, I guess it depends. We're gonna depend. I'm sure these three 0-3 teams are looking at making some moves. So we'll see what kind of moves they make over the next week, and especially if anybody goes 0-4, which I have to almost guarantee one of these three is going to go 0-4. And at that point, you have to make moves. So, oh, man, I am going to put my prediction or my guess, just a wild guess, that we're going to see somebody this year at 0-6.
0-6. It'd be super crazy if this week 6, both James and Lubasi were 0-5.
That would be absolutely nuts.
That
What a matchup that would be, though. What, like, the league would, I mean, we would just forget every other match that's going on and, like, who's getting their first win and who's going 0-6.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, I do think James gets out this way. I mean, his downward trajectory right now, 110, 99, 85. I think he gets Dom. I really do. I just think Dom's team is vulnerable right now. But from looking at Dom's perspective, this is the matchup he wants. A weaker opponent per se, and one of his big guys still getting hurt. But yeah, 0-6 would be tough to swallow. Let's see Lubasi's schedule.
Yeah, I'm putting my prediction that we see at least one team this year that's going 0-6.
Yeah, I think they could get Nick. Lubasi's got a tough schedule, actually. I think
That's not till week 7, though.
I think he gets Jimmy or James, though. James's best bet, I think, is this week.
Man, I don't know. This is going to be so interesting. This is a big storyline of the year right now. I feel like I don't know if we've gotten 3 teams winless through 3 weeks. That just seems like a lot. And yeah, I'm very anxious to see how that plays out.
Well, let's flip it to Rudy. Man, Rudy's had a really good year so far. Let's flip it to Rudy. When do you think Rudy will get his first loss?
Well, I think Rudy's going to get his first loss this week. I think Johnny is going to pull it out. I think the whole league's rooting for Johnny this week. We don't want to. Obviously, you're rooting for the undefeated team to see that first L. I think Johnny is going to get it done. You did say that you think Rudy wins this game. So where do you see his first loss coming in?
Yeah, I think he loses to Chewy and then me, of course. I think he needs to get this win because if he loses this game, he's on a 3-game losing streak, in my opinion. So it'll be 3-3, and that'd be tough.
Yeah,
tough to swallow.
That would be a tough way to fall off. We've seen it happen, though. We've seen teams start out hot and kind of fizzle as the season goes on. So we'll see if Rudy can keep up this momentum and continue his undefeated glory.
Yeah, we'll quickly go. Here's the standings. Like we said, we'll go through the points for. You can see Dom is still sitting at the top, and Geoff as well. I snuck in there with number 3, so we do have a mini game. The top 4 points. I know it's really early to talk about this right now, but top 4 gets into the bracket, and we have a lot of 380s and above. The 5 teams are 380s and above. So those guys are scoring a lot of points. And you got Johnny, who's 6th at 356, and he's 0-3. So Johnny has not had a bad year, just very unlucky this year so far.
Yeah, well, and that's why I think Johnny is the best 0-3 team, and I'm much more worried about Lubasi and James down there because not only are they winless, they're also not putting up a ton of points. I believe Lubasi made a comment last week about all the points that have been getting dropped on him, but I do not feel like he has room to complain about that right now because he hasn't even cracked the 300 mark.
Yeah, so speaking of Lubasi, you can see we'll just do it on this way. So this is the teams that are giving up the most points per se on defense. And yeah, I mean, Lubasi does, like you said, Lubasi does, all right, like Lubasi said, he does have a point, but like you said, he's just not scoring many points. But Johnny, this is why he's 0-3. He's getting 402 points thrown up against him. It's tough to win when you're getting that many points thrown up. But I guess Chewy's done pretty well. He's 2-1. Yeah, so that is the schedule, or the points and the points against. And I commented you on this earlier today. You are 2-1, but I guess Nick is the lowest 2-1 at 301, but you are 8th in points, which doesn't spring confidence. But I feel like your team is more up on the up and up.
We've scored more points every week so far. We had my week 1 was at 90, so like I'm not surprised to see myself down there lower, but we bounced back with 2 games in a row over 100 and 125 this week, so I'm not too concerned about the points for right now.
And for lastly, we'll talk about, we did have a trade today, first trade of the year. Not really too many fireworks with this one. They're pretty, I don't want to say no names, but I think the best person traded right in this trade is JSN. He had one really, really good week, but other 2 weeks were pretty bad. I mean, it's just crazy. You go from 16 targets week 2 to only getting 3 the next week. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, Seattle was pretty much dominating most of that game.
True.
That team just sucks. So they weren't really, I don't think, shooting out the ball too much. And then plus you had a whole drive that got killed by a DK Metcalf, like 80-yard touchdown. So there goes, an entire drive there. Their defense was just eating all day. And yeah, I just don't think they had to really throw too much. But yeah, it is unfortunate to see JSN go down in targets like that. I mean, that's significant. But I do think he's going to be a good player for Jimmy now. And then James gets Cortland Sutton and Zeke Elliott. Kind of like you said, not a lot of fireworks going on, not showstoppers or eye-popping guys getting traded here. But hopefully this will be what James something in James's favor to give his team a little bit of a boost. I think he must like Cortland Sutton.
Yeah, I mean, when I first saw this trade, I feel like, this was a pretty good win for Jimmy. I think Jimmy wins this trade. But the more I look at it, I mean, so the big bet is Cortland Sutton, and if what's the quarterback's name for Denver? Bo Nix. He had a really good game against Tampa. If he actually steps up and improves, every week, Cortland Sutton will improve every week with him. And I think I would rather have the number 1 wide receiver on a bad team against the number 3 wide receiver on, I think Seahawks are a 3-0 team, a really good team is pretty much. So then you can see, I mean, the one Bo Nix game that was really good, 11 targets, he even had 12 targets in the first week against Seattle. The more I look into this trade, I think Cortland Sutton is my favorite player out of this trade. For that, I would probably give James a slight edge, but I don't think this is going to be a league winning trade.
No, I think this could help probably both teams here. I don't really expect much out of Tajay Spears unless something happens to Tony Pollard.
Pollard's looked good
from
too.
what we've seen, and Spears was questionable, I think, coming out of last week. But I do like JSN a lot. I think I like him probably a little more than Cortland Sutton, just because I think that the Seahawks offense is a little better. I think his quarterback's a little bit better. But yeah, I think this could be hopefully mutually beneficial to both of these guys, and hopefully they are happy with their new players.
Yeah, and like you said, hopefully this springboards some more trades. I know Lubasi said he was getting blown up. I know James said he's open for business in the group chat, and we just saw a couple people throw some really bad trades at Johnny, which he has smartly declined. So we are in the swing of it with trades, that's for sure.
Yeah, I love it. We are definitely getting into that part of the year where trades are going to become more and more of a necessity for some. And I just think they're going to start happening. We've kind of, through the first, week 1, week 2, you don't really know. Like, it's just the first couple of weeks. But we're 3 weeks in now. We're kind of seeing teams take shape. We're seeing certain players develop trends one way or the other. So I think trades are going to start coming pretty hot and heavy now, especially with 3 teams here winless, probably trying to make some moves. So I'm excited to see the trade market and what develops from that. Give us a lot to discuss here on the pod week in and week out.
Yeah, I mean, last thing I'll say for the pod would just like the playoff percentage chances. I mean, you see these 0-3 teams are at 18%, and then James is at 17%. I mean, those just aren't good odds. So, I mean, these 0-3 teams need to get a dub this week, or you're looking at maybe single digits percentage for your playoff chances.
Yeah, and I think we talk about most years that usually in our league, you're looking for like 6 losses at max to have a shot at the playoffs. Sometimes less, sometimes a 7-loss team might sneak in, but I think that 6 mark is kind of the benchmark for what you're looking for. And at 0-3, it gets a little scary. And with my prediction too, that a team might go 0-6, that would be very, very scary.
Yeah, I just wanted to see so with the extra game that we have now, I think 7-7. We had 2 7-7 teams last year, so I think 7 is really, if you go over 7 wins, you're or 7 losses. So if you have 8 losses, you're pretty much out of it.
Yeah, but we also probably had some 7-loss teams down there in the other bracket as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we had a lot of 7-7s.
Yeah, so I mean, 7. If you hit 7, it's pretty much like a crapshoot. You don't control your own destiny. Right. It depends on a lot. 6, I think, is still kind of that threshold where you want to like sound in the alarms of like, okay, I literally can't lose anymore. Playoffs are pretty much out of sight.
Yeah. Man, what a run by Jimmy last year. I don't know, 136, 148.
Fizzled out in the championship.
Yeah, fizzled out because he saw me.
Yeah, so I think, at 0-3, you're getting pretty nervous. But if those losses continue to rack up, things are going to get very scary for those winless teams right now. I mean, scary early in the season anyway.
Right, and then Johnny already matched his season losses this year in 3 weeks. That's crazy, man. That's crazy.
That is crazy. Yeah. I mean, fantasy is such a gnarly game, man, because you just never know. Like, a team could start out 0-3 and never lose again. Team could start out 3-0 and finish, with 3 wins, 4 wins. So
right.
Will be fun to watch this develop as the season goes on. But I think with that, we are good for the week 3 recap. Do you have any closing thoughts for the league?
I don't think so. I think this week 4 is a very important week to get the dub. I think I mentioned this last week, and I mentioned this in the group chat, that this is all in division games week 4. So big week to get a win, just because you see those 7-7 teams last year, they got in because of intra-division records. So just a huge week for everyone to get that record to be positive.
Yep, this is a big week. I am sitting 2-0 right now in my division games, and if I can move to 3-0, I will be absolutely ecstatic. It's going to be an exciting week, and I'm ready for the show.
I'm ready. I'm ready for Thursday. We got Dak versus Daniel Jones.
Oh, man, it's going to be a hype week. All right, I can't wait. And good luck to everybody in week 4. We will see you guys next week.
Peace.